Well, welcome all. How's it going? Well, we're doing good over here because we're still painting and having fun, and I'm just so happy you've joined us today because we are going to spring into spring with this cool little tulip painting. Very easy to do, very fun. We're going to get cracking right away. I hope that you enjoy our actual first adult video. Oh, that didn't sound right, but how about that? So anywho's, I did this painting with a light yellow and blue background. I was kind of careful with the yellow and blue because what do yellow and blue make? Well, you guys should know that makes green, so you have to be a little careful with that. Our way that we do the background and do our paintings is all wet blending on most of our paintings. That's most of our style. So we're gonna get cracking here, and I've got some wet paint, wet paint, how about that? Watered down paint, white. I'm gonna use mostly white paint, and I'm gonna start doing my background at a diagonal. You don't have to do it at a diagonal. You know, you are who you are. You may like up and down, crosswise, whatever. All I'm gonna tell you is make sure you do wet on wet blending so it blends nicely. Don't be jumping all over your canvas for my beginners. Make sure when you start painting, start in one area, then work your way down. Don't go here and then here and then here. Okay, this is a beginning tutorial. You can fast forward through my little hints too, but just remember, if you're a beginner, make sure you've got wet on wet and make sure you have paint on your brush. Don't be painting naked, okay? Painting naked means you have no paint on your brush. So you guys ready to start? And here we go. Are you ready? I am. Got some white. My white is watered down to about latex or Elmer's glue consistency because my paint is super thick. Yours may not be. Mine is. It doesn't flow on my canvas when it's kind of like sour cream. So I'm gonna grab some white paint and I'm gonna double load my brush with some yellow. I'm not gonna water down my yellow because my white's watered down really well. So here we go. Flat brush. This is a little too yellow for me, so I'm gonna add a little more white in here. Yay, I like it. I like the softness. Softness reminds me of spring. A little more white, I think. And remember, your background's really not going to show. You're going to have a lot of pretty flowers in there. There you go. Get some lights and darks in there, however you like it. You may like it darker. I kind of like a soft background. This painting to me is spring. It's soft, it's light. Want a little highlights. And this is what you have to focus on. Where is your subject matter? Well, your subject matter is going to be all in here, so this part you can see more, but keep it soft because you really don't see a lot of that background. We put a quick coat on it because we need a toning layer. For my beginners, you need a toning layer. Very, very important. Oh, it's just a fancy art term for primer. Even though most of our canvases are gesso primer, that's an Italian word for plaster, I think. But you still need to put a nice little coat of paint on there. Super light, not too heavy. So once you get this all done, I want you to go blow dry. So you always have to have acrylic paints dried before you put a second layer on it. Don't let anybody fool you. They turn out much better when you're not lifting your paint off your canvas, and I tell people this all the time. They try to rush the process. Don't rush the process. I personally don't like to wait, so I hit it with a blow dryer. And to me, that's the bomb. The other thing you want to do is don't forget you can jockey your canvas. I hate painting at the bottom of my canvas, so I usually flip it upside down. This time I'm not. I'm just going to get in here and get the bottom. If you'd like to paint the edges, go ahead and do that now too. And the way I do the edges, it's very simple. I usually start at the top. And I'm going to show you. I'll put a little paint here. And what I like to do is just tilt it forward and I go this way. Okay? See a little run there? Just this way, all the way. So you can kind of see how it looks. Get it all done. I don't go like this because it nicks the front. And just remember that if you're a little patient. Of course, real artists don't usually paint their edges, you know. I don't know about real artists, but gallery people, I suppose. You know, those gallery people. We're just having fun. And I want you to have fun and don't be critical of yourself. Just have a good time. Let's get this coat done. Let's go dry. So now what I'm gonna do is we've got the first coat on our background. What do you think's next? You guys have to think about things a little bit. Think about the composition or how your portrait is laid out. The tulips are what? Farthest from you or closest to you? Well, they're closest. So we're gonna do the tulips last. And anything overlapping, like if we've got some tulips in the background, we'll throw some green grass or green foliage, whatever you wanna call it, over it. But we're gonna add our grass. So are you guys ready? To make that grass look really kind of cool the way it does, you have to use a couple different greens, and you also have to use some yellow and white on your brush. You've got to water down your paint if you've got these thick paints like I do. So I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna grab some green paint and water it down real quick. And I'm gonna start rocking and rolling really fast here, and I want you guys to pay attention to my brush. So my paint's watered down. I've got 2 greens loaded on my brush, my phthalo and my regular green. And I gotta make sure I don't have enough water. So if you're a heavy dipper like me, make sure you tap a little bit on your paper towel and get rid of some of that water, okay? Don't forget that. So I've got my greens, and now I'm gonna grab a little yellow. And now I am actually double, triple loaded on my brush. So I've been having my brush this way. Now I'm gonna turn it this way. I want you guys to watch. You guys ready? Let's start. Look what's going on here. All right, so I'm going back and forth and reloading my brush quite often because I don't have a lot of paint. The reason I don't have a lot of paint because I don't want these guys to be fat. I'm trying to make them skinny. So I'm reloading my brush. I'm putting a lot of yellow and quite a bit of white in here, and I'm trying to make it wispy, leaning toward this way, because that's just how I did my canvas or my painting. So I don't want it to look like mowed grass. That's the other thing I always try to tell people. This is not an English garden. You're out here, you're looking at these beautiful tulips. Heck, maybe you're in Holland at that beautiful garden. Brushy, do you remember what that garden's called? The Kirken something, I forget what it is. You know, I married a Dutchman.
No,
I married a Dutchman, I can't remember what the heck that garden's called. Very popular, very beautiful garden in Holland, in the Netherlands. So keep reloading your brush. And you know, the thing of it is that I have to explain to you guys is get the different colors, get different levels of color in there. You don't want everything to look the same, because if everything looks the same, you don't have depth in your painting. You've got to have all these lights and darks coming in. And as you can see, it's taking me a little while to fill this in. So I'm just gonna keep working while you're working. And when we come back, we'll learn how to do those flowers. So remember, keep changing your little pattern of color. Get a little more yellow in there, get a little more white with your green, and just play with it. Get some lighter and darker colors. When I mean lighter and darker, I mean you've got the darker green, you've got the lighter green. If you don't have those colors, make sure you put a little more yellow, a little less yellow, maybe a little more white, a little more or a little less white, and just keep rocking. So you can see this is darker, this is lighter. I can make a little swirly, angled grasses or part of my flower garden here. Hello, hello. Well, guess what? I'm so excited. We get to put the flowers in. And so for those of you that know me personally, you know I love flowers. I love nature, I love landscapes. But most of all, I just like flowers. I like flowers. So when you're looking at a painting, you really, again, don't want it to look random. You kind of, my big word, organic. You kind of want to grow your painting organically. So I'm going to use some chalk, and you can use whatever you want to kind of lay out where I want my tulips. If you notice on the painting, some of the tulips are way behind, some of them are in front. And when we get our tulips in and start fine-tuning our painting, you can put some grass over your tulips like I did there and just have fun with it and make it a little more wispy and filling it out. But my main thing is I've got to get my composition done here. So let's see how many tulips I have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, yeah, so I'm actually even, which is unusual for me, but what offset me was doing a few little lupins in here too. So it's all about balance on your composition, what you want to see, and really, what do you like? what's pretty to you? What's aesthetically pleasing to you? Everybody's different, and you don't have to use pink. I'm gonna use pink, obviously with a lot of white, and I just like it. But I mean, we all know tulips can be all kinds of different colors, and they can be exactly what you want. So let's start off. Tulips, think about the shape of a tulip. People get intimidated by tulips, but all it is, to label it out, is a U. Just remember that, a U. So here we go. I'm gonna start chalking. And I'm just gonna start laying this out a little bit of how I want my tulips. Okay? So I'm making a bunch of U's. I'm taking a look at what I've got going on here. There's 7 there, that's fine for me. I usually do odd numbers, but sometimes I don't. I don't know. You know what? Every day it's different. Everybody's different every day, so don't feel obligated to do 10 or 7 or whatever. Just start laying it out. And you know what's kind of funny when you start painting? You start adding, or you go slow and you think, well, maybe I want another one. Oh, maybe that's good. So you just never know. So how the heck do I get these guys looking so pretty? Well, first things first, I'm gonna white them out. So I'm gonna move to my small brush, and I've got white that's clean. If you don't, get some clean white, or just kind of move around. If you've got just a little dot of green somewhere, it's not gonna show up anyways. So make sure, I'm just gonna go ahead and use mostly white. I'll put a teeny bit of pink in there just for kicks and giggles. You're probably gonna have to put like, maybe even 3 coats on here, I don't know. It goes really fast though. So here's my brush. I'm gonna make a U so you can see. There's a U. That's the start of a tulip. But because, again, we're just primering, here's the middle. That's all you really need to do. Guys filled in. Nah, they don't look that great, but this is what you got to do. Remember, painting takes time and it takes layers, 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 layers. But that looks pretty good. I'm gonna let that dry, and I tried not to make them all exactly the same, but tulips are kind of that way. They're kind of exactly the same, right? Just make sure you've got a pretty good coat of white on there. Go dry these, and the second coat is where the magic happens. The second coat is where the rubber hits the road, or the paint hits the canvas. I don't know, one of those. Anyways, go dry. See you in a few minutes. Okay, hello again, hello. I shouldn't say hello because you haven't left me at all. I'm going in for the second coat. Now this time I'm gonna be a lot more intentional. I'm gonna have mostly white with a little more pink on my brush. And I wanna see how this coat is covering. So we're gonna start with this guy here, just so you can see. So here we go. Oh yeah, a lot of pink there, a lot of pink. I'm gonna turn my brush a little bit, get this middle part of the little tulip in. I think I want a little more white because I want a little bit more of a differential in here. So I'm just gonna go like that. Okay, well some of you are probably wondering, hey, I have a little chalk left over. Please do not wipe your chalk off at all until you are done and it's dried, because you will smear your paint.
Hey, Gigi.
What?
How do we remove the chalk?
Oh yeah, with your tongue. No, I'm kidding. Don't. I do that with my kids. Don't do that. All you need to do is take a paper towel, put a little bit of water on it. Make sure your paper towel is clean. I usually use the one I have, but I'm very careful. I go to the edge, put a little water, and very gingerly, very lightly, the chalk will get absorbed in the wetness of the paper towel. So just take your time. It's pretty darn easy. It works like a chalkboard. When you have something dry, just remember you can wipe what's wet on top of it. Even like right now, if I'm painting, right? And I go, oh shoot, I didn't want to do that. Get a lot of moisture, not to where it's drippy, and you can wipe that paint right off because this part's dry, that part's wet. Does that make sense? Same thing for everything that you do. So I'm just gonna keep working through and getting my little tulips a second coat and possibly a third coat. It really just depends how much they're covering. Now, of course, we're all working at different paces. You may even have to take a break to take care of something, like pay a bill or something, I don't know, or coax a crying child. or a grandchild like myself. But just keep working through and don't hesitate, don't freak out if you need 3 coats. And what I mean by 3 coats, it may not mean a full coat, it just may mean a couple brush strokes. So get your flowers, just your tulips filled in, and then I'm gonna give you instruction how to do the cute little lupin or some other small flowers that you may want to add to your beautiful painting today. Okay, so I played with my tulips. I've been tiptoeing through the tulips. I know a lot of you don't know what that is, but you'll have to Google that. But anyways, I probably put a 3rd coat, a few strokes in here. They look pretty good. They're not completely dry, so I don't want to mess around with my 3rd coat too much. But what I do want to do while this is drying, I want to teach you how to do these really pretty little lupin style flowers. You don't have to do those. I personally like them. It's a whole different technique, I can't talk. It's a dabbing technique. Super easy, but what you have to think about is why does it look like that? Well, there's a lot of contrast, and when you're painting, you want to build contrast and dimension into your painting so it looks like you can pick that flower, right? So, whole different brush style again. I've been barking at you guys, make sure your paint's watered down good. If you have the thinner paint, that's totally cool. Dabbing requires no water, that's the thing. You gotta make sure your paint is a little bit thicker to get a little bit of texture on your brush. I'm gonna load my brush mostly with white paint, and I'm gonna go to the point on my brush. So I'm on the point, and I'm gonna load both points, and I'm gonna put a little bit of pink paint on there too. And I'm gonna kind of figure out where I want these guys. Now you can chalk them, or you can just step back from your painting and go, hey, this one will look really cute here, this one will look pretty here, this one may look pretty here. You just kind of have to back up and look, but you gotta start somewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and start with one right here. So remember, you've got a lot of paint loaded on that brush, so I'm gonna go ahead and start small. Oh yes, remember, if you start small, you're in good shape. If you start big, it's really hard to go back. So it's kind of like roping a wild pony. So start small, and kind of start laying it out. I'm going on my point, and I'm just going to dot, kind of like duck, duck, goose. There we go. Okay, so there we go. That is my start. Now, I kind of want it that big. If it gets a little bigger, it's totally cool. I am going to reload my brush, and I'm going to start dotting again. Dot. Well, guess what? There's no contrast in here. What the heck? So if you grab some contrast, mine's gonna be pink, and I pop it right on top of there, then what happens? Oh yeah, it works, huh? So start small, get a little line like I did. Don't make it doing straight up. Make it a little angled, like it's kind of leaning a little bit. And keep dabbing. Dab. I know you're laughing at me, but that's what you do. And what am I gonna do? Light and dark, light and dark, light and dark. So I see I need a little more contrast. And remember, I just kind of do it. I just go gradually, and I look, I step back, I don't go right up in its grill all the time. You gotta back up a little bit, because look if I look like this, it doesn't look right, okay? When you're looking at somebody right in their nose, it doesn't look right. You have to step back to see the whole picture. So then step back a little bit, and just kind of dab it a little bit, and I'm like, hey, it's a little too dark at the tip. So what am I gonna do? Well, I'm gonna grab some white paint. Yeah, I'm gonna grab the opposite color. It's like yin and yang. So here we go. Dab a little bit more in here. Oh yeah, so cute. Okay, so I've got all my little lupins in, my little dabbing technique here. Filled them in, made sure I had a good contrast, because remember, contrast is what makes your painting pop. But now I'm thinking, well, do I want to do some crossover, green stuff, foliage, whatever you want to call it, and I really need to put some stems in here. and maybe a few little big fat tulip leaves if I feel like doing it, and if you feel like doing it. If you like your painting the way it is, that's cool, but I would probably put some stems in. So here we go. Do you remember when we were making the grassy part, the green part of the painting from the beginning? We had our brush like this and we didn't put much pressure because we wanted it to be skinny. Well, we had a lot of paint on this brush as we were going because we were filling in a big spot, right? So we could put a little action, a little more paint on our brush, but now we're going very, very small. So here, what I'm gonna do is when I load my green paint, I'm coming to the edge of my palette, and I'm still gonna mix a little bit of color in there, but let me tell you guys something, my brush is skinny mini, man. Skinny, skinny, skinny brush. And I'm not gonna have much pressure. Now you can practice away, put a few little lines in here first if you want. Like that's too dark, but I wanted to give you an example. I'm gonna come in and grab some white and I'm just gonna soften it up. Yeah, you can do that. Come right back in, soften stuff up a little bit, okay? Don't worry, and remember, I'm trying to show you a little bit of an example too, and I grabbed a little pink, you see where I wasn't dry all the way, and that's why you have to be really careful when you're dabbing, the paint's thicker, it needs to dry. I'm gonna cover that, but just so you know, I do it too, because I'm messing around too with it. So here I go, I'm gonna put a couple stems in. Do they have to come all the way to the bottom? No. So here I go, I'm just gonna start here and make me a little stem and just kind of let it drag down. Have a little fun with it. I don't put much pressure. You may not even be able to see it really well. Does it really matter? No. It's a painting. Just have fun with it. It's a nice way to let yourself go a little bit, get lost in the painting. I know when I paint, I always feel better because I don't know, I just forget about everything. I start getting into the painting and I just go. Try not to worry about it too much. Just have fun with it. Now, if you want to do some crossover grasses, please be careful. So remember what I told you, when things are dry underneath, if you paint over and you go, ooh, I don't like that, get your paper towel ready, make sure you have your paper towel ready, and wipe that sucker off, because it won't take off the paint that's dry, it'll take off the paint that's wet, correct? So I'm pretty dry, but I'm gonna go super light just to show you guys. If you want a few crossover guys in here. Oh my gosh, please start small. Don't get too excited on me. So here I'm gonna cross over this guy a little bit. There we go. There we go. A few little crossover grasses, very soft, not too much drama. I did a little more on my first one. It's a little bit different when you're painting by yourself versus when you're teaching. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually put in maybe a tulip leaf. And I don't know if you all know, tulip leaves are very big and they're fat and long, just like this right here. I grew up in tulip country myself in the Midwest, and I'm just gonna very lightly stick a tulip leaf in here. I don't want it too prevalent. I want it to be kind of soft back here. And again, you don't have to do this, guys, okay? Remember that. Just do what you feel like doing. I'm turning my brush and almost using it like a pencil. Taking my time. And remember, just do what you want to do. You don't have to get too excited about stuff. Take your time with it. There we go. Stuck a little one in here. Maybe I'll grab a little white to make it a little pop there. There we go. And you can see them, but you can't see them. It's kind of a mystery back there. And that's it. So I want you to take a look at your painting. See if you want to add any wispies. I'm going to pull this off my easel just a little bit. And I'm going to put a little bit of stuff in here just because I feel like it. And remember, do what you want to do. Don't just do what I do. Do what you think what you want to do. And remember, you can always paint over stuff. You can always wipe it off if it's wet. Just remember that. And you can always add a little more color. I'm just gonna go very gradually. You can see I've grabbed a little bit of yellow with my green, and what happens, getting a little bit of blue there. Is that okay? Yep, it's okay. I actually kind of like it. Sometimes, like Mr. Bob Ross used to say, happy little accidents. It's true. He gave us that cute little expression, and I hope that you remember that when you're painting, because you do it just to let go and release. And I'm actually liking this blue now. Kind of funny how things work out. Have fun with it. Don't overthink it. Let it rest a little bit. Sometimes you even come back a little bit later. But that's about it for now. I think we're almost done.
Gigi?
Yes, Brushy.
What do you do when you're done with the painting?
What do I do?
Yeah.
Go take a nap? What?
What are you supposed to do?
Oh, what am I supposed to do? Well, a couple things you can do. If I want someone to know I painted it, I usually sign it.
Yeah!
Okay, guys, so I am not that brave, I will tell you. I have signed stuff with a paintbrush before, but you know, it's not the old days, right? I like to use a paint pen. They're really cool. Or a gold Sharpie or something, and I sign. But if you don't want to, sign with what you want. But you know what? It's your painting. Own it, baby. Just own it. Have a great day.